Okay, everybody, how you been? Tekking101 here. Not quite back up at 100% yet, but I think we're getting there. So in today's video, we're gonna keep it easy. We're just gonna kind of ease ourselves back into it by discussing the most single important event that has occurred in the One Piece story. Yeah, that's right. The Rocky Port Incident. What is the Rocky Port Incident? Well, let me tell you something about the Rocky Port Incident, because a lot of people don't know this. The Rocky Port Incident occurred, it was at this port, and the port was known to be rather rocky, so there was probably a lot of sediment around the shore of the port, where it got its name. Law was involved there. Law was there with his hat, and he was probably not as flappy as my hat, but he was there with his hat, and he was the mastermind of such an incident at the port. And Koby was there as well, and he became a hero by defending the citizens at the port during the incident at the port. Okay, so here's the thing. Completely forgot about this. You know, I really want to know how Oda works with his notes. Alright, like, how does he keep all this shit straight? Because the Rocky Port Incident was something that was mentioned one time back when, brand new, you know, the dude in the Marines that's like an intelligence officer. I think he's a Commodore now. He's got like the green afro and the shades. He was announcing the warlords after the time skip, so including Buggy, the Clown Star, as well as Law, the Surgeon of Death, you know, as the new roster of the 7 warlords. And he was going through them, you know, being a little bit theatrical. I mean, he was talking about them to a bunch of Marines. It was like, Clown Star, Buggy, the greatest swordsman, Mihawk. Like, brand new, we already know this. You don't have to... The Pirate Empress, Boa Hancock. Like, yes, we know who the warlords are. And he's being very theatrical. When he arrived to Law, he announced that he was the mastermind behind the Rocky Port Incident. And it was never referenced again after that, and I didn't pay it any mind. I mean, I remember when he said that, but I just kind of, like, logged it away as, like, oh, okay, well, that's, who cares, you know? It's like, okay, he was part of some random incident. You know, it would be kind of like, let's use a Marine that we don't get to see too often, like, Hina. Okay, Hina we actually did get to see recently. She was escorting the Alabasta ship. But let's say, when we actually get to see Hina, like, properly reintroduced into the story, if she's gonna be, like, a main, you know, figure, somebody's, like, saying, like, oh, that's Rear Admiral Hina. She was, there during the Sandy Beach incident 6 months ago. I mean, would you be sitting there as a fan base like, oh, I really want to know what happened during the Sandy Beach incident involving Hina? Okay, well, you might, just because Hina is like, whoa, but you know what I mean, like, I just figured, like, it was just a thing, like a throwaway, like, oh yeah, the Rocky Port incident, you know, whatever. You know, it was something that, you know, Law was part of, and then that's all there is to it, you know? Oda has to be keeping notes somewhere, or maybe he has one of his lackeys to keep notes, and he's like, okay, the Rocky Port incident, this is when it's going to have its time to shine. So, Law was stated to be the mastermind of it, and then in the most recent chapter, when Kiros saw Koby, the captain of the, you know, the ship that took out that pirate crew that was targeting the Dressrosa and the Prudence vessels, Kiros is like, oh yeah, Captain Koby, that's just fun to say. Captain Koby! You're famous because of that Rocky Port incident. You protected a lot of civilians at that. That's what made you kind of well known. And Koby's just kind of like, he's very humble. He doesn't like, oh yeah, I was a badass during that fight, you know, shining that medal on his side of his little thing, which might actually be a medal he got from that. That might be the accolade from that incident. So I went back and I looked at a lot of the things, all the stuff we know about this incident involving Law and Koby, trying to piece this together. Obviously, I don't know what it is, you know, what everything was, you know, going on there, although since Oda dropped it now not once but twice, and Law and Koby were both central figures there, we might very well get a flashback to that at some point. Okay, so the things that we actually know 100% about the Rocky Port incident, other than the obvious, you know, well, it's an incident that occurred at a Rocky Port. No. Okay, it occurred during the time skip, so that 2-year gap there between the War of Marineford and when the Straw Hats got back together at Sabaody, that's when the Rocky Port incident happened. It also occurred before Law became a warlord. In fact, if you actually look at Law's bounty from where it was before the time skip and after, it made a significant jump. He was 200 million berries when he was first introduced at Sabaody with the other supernovas. Then, when he was introduced at Punk Hazard, it was stated that his bounty was 440 million. Now, he was a warlord at this point, so his bounty was actually frozen, but before it was frozen, so before he became a warlord, it was 440 million. So that means that in the intermeeting time between the time skip, Law had to do something to warrant his bounty, doubling, more than that, to 440 million, which was higher than Luffy's at the time. Luffy's bounty was only 400 million in the, 2-year gap there. After he was 300 million at Marineford, then after the events of Marineford, after it was come to light that Dragon was his dad and Ace was his sworn brother and all this crap, it got bumped up to 400 million, also possibly punching Charlos also contributed to that as well. But yeah, so Luffy's was only 400 million though, Law's was 440. Now, the way that Law, though, became a warlord is a little weird, because he apparently sent 100 pirate hearts to the Marines. In the anime, it was just stated he, arrived at Marineford with a giant crate and just, here you go, 100 hearts! 1 warlord status, please. Maybe that didn't go down exactly the way in the anime, in the manga as it was portrayed in the anime, but, that raises also a lot of other questions, like, okay, first off, how did the Marines even know they were pirate hearts? Like, okay, here's a big thing of hearts. Like, alright, you could have just ripped these out of civilians. We don't, oh yeah, that's the heart of Captain Greybeard. He definitely must have killed him, it'd be very weird, unless he had the bodies to go with them, which, oh god, Law, that would be, ugh. Also, is that how it works? Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to present you a present, and then you make me a warlord. Because that's not how it worked with Buggy. Buggy, they just sent an invite, and I'm sure that's probably how it worked with a lot of the other warlords, too. They just sent a carrier bat and be like, hey, you want to join up with our wonderful organization? Like, alright, maybe, I guess so. Certain characters like Jinbei kind of had to fall in there to maybe, further relations between humans and fishmen, but for most cases, I'm sure it was just an invitation, and they just accepted or declined, and that's how it goes. I'm imagining the government sending out little cards like you got in elementary school. Well, I didn't get them in elementary school, but, someone that you, that likes you might send you a card, like, do you like me? Yes, /no/maybe, and check out the boxes, and it's like, do you want to join the warlords? I'm like, okay, maybe. But yeah, that's how Law did it. I'm like, okay, and I'm pretty sure this incident, the heart incident on how he became a member of the warlords is different from the Rocky Port incident. For one thing, I think you would probably just call that the 100 bleeding hearts incident or something like that. Like, that would be kind of a more apt title. So in terms of the Rocky Port thing, I think what Law did, he had to do something that really showed his power to the Marines and to the government to raise his bounty that much. Because remember, 440 million, think of all the stuff Luffy did up to that point. Luffy is the son of Dragon. He attacked Enies Lobby, one of the government facilities, led a massive breakout out of Impel Down, punched a freaking warlord, not a warlord, punched a Tenryubito, much worse, contributed in the fight at Marineford. It was made public knowledge that he was a sworn brother to Ace, allied with Whitebeard, all this crazy shit. His bounty was only 400 million. Okay, so Law had to do something that not only exhibited his power, but also he couldn't have done something a little bit too crazy, because if he acted the way, like, Kid would act, like, Kid would just raid the island and burn the whole fucking thing down and then crucify all of the citizens. Like, that's something Kid would do. And at that point, the Marines and the government would just be like, okay, that guy's too crazy. We can't have him as part of this. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He's going around just slaughtering people. So I think what Law did was something really clever, really kind of tactical, that might have resulted in some civilian casualties, but nothing on... It was something that really showed off his intelligence, and that's what queued up the Marines and the government to be like, all right, let's see if we can accept him over to our side here. And also the fact that Brand New announced Law as, you know, he was revealed to be the mastermind behind the Rocky Port incident. That implies that they didn't actually know who it was while the incident was occurring, right? And I don't think the Rocky Port incident was anything like a straight-up battle, because if it was, just call it a battle. Just call it the Rocky Port battle, or the Rocky Port war, or whatever you want to call it. They don't call it the Marineford incident, okay? They call it the War of the Best, or the War at Marineford, okay? That's how, the Whitebeard War, that's what you call it. The fact that it was an incident means that it wasn't a straight-up just, like, Law rocks up with his crew and then the Marines come out or the government officials come out and they fight. Nothing like that. For one thing, what Law could have done is he could have approached this port. Let's just say the Rocky Port is a place that's in the Grand Line, in Paradise side of the Grand Line. Because remember, Law did not go to the New World along with all the other supernovas, okay? Like, right after the war at Marineford, you had Arouge and Kid and Hawkins and Drake. They all went straight to the New World and started making waves in there. Law was kind of chilling back, remember? He was just kind of like, I'll take my time. It's waiting for us. I think he was like, I'm gonna build up my reputation a little bit. I wanna get some extra, you know, benefits before I head over. So, the Rocky Port, let's just say, is a place in Paradise. It's a populated island, maybe a very, very, very busy port kind of city kind of deal, right? A lot of boats coming in and out. Maybe a naval base, something like that. Maybe a government base, something like that. Law, in his submarine, and utilizing his Devil Fruit abilities, he could have done something like this. He could have taken his submarine, he could have went near the surface, you know, up periscope, he could have looked. He's like, all right, what do you see? I'm like, all right, all the marine vessels, all the ships. He's like, okay, room, tact, and just flipped up all the freaking battleships and then just crashed them back down on the beach. Totally could have done that. Kind of the same thing that Shiki did in Strong World, but you see where I'm going with that. Law could have done something where he could have just kind of hit the Marines, hit the government, and let them show that he's really powerful. And just got away without actually engaging in a straight-up just physical brawl, you know? It would have been even more impressive if, like, a bunch of naval ships were docked there at the same time, which it's very likely, and Koby's was one of those ships. This could have been back before Koby was a captain. I'm assuming that this incident might have actually also got him promoted to captain. So at this point, you know, Koby made big jumps. Koby was only a Master Chief Petty Officer before the events of the time skip. After the time skip, he's a captain. Do you understand how many ranks he jumped there? He went from warrant officer to ensign, all the different lieutenant ranks, you know, past the commander rank, all the way up to captain in 2 years. Those are some big jumps he made, okay? So, I don't know, back then, let's say at this time, you know, he was working on a ship, he was maybe an ensign or a lieutenant or something like that. All these ships were docked at the port or something like that, and then Law decided to use his Devil Fruit, the Oppi Oppi no Mi, to, like, flip all the ships over, or wreck the town. He could have done all this stuff, and the people would have no idea what's going on, because his room can get pretty big. It's implied that he can make it as big as, like, a mountain. It just shortens his life whenever he does that. So, he can really make it as big as he wants. So, he could park his submarine, you know, deep under the water, up periscope, and just be like, alright, let's make a room of this size, and then just wreck the town. And then, later on, maybe he sent his calling card or something, or maybe he did something to indicate, maybe he left his Jolly Roger around the town, or something like that, or to imply, or maybe, this is something really kind of clever, maybe he, like, used his Devil Fruit to drop all the debris, and the debris eventually laid out to make a symbol of his Jolly Roger or something. It's like, oh, it was him this whole time! Damn it, he hit us hard, and we didn't even know what was going on this whole time. This would imply that, like, maybe civilians were at risk from getting hurt or something, so Koby, you know, went to go protect them during this incident, you know. Law caused a lot of property damage, maybe some civilians actually died, but at the same time, the Marines had to kind of look at that and admit, like, okay, yeah, he could have easily, it's bad. The incident that occurred was definitely bad, but if Law wanted to, and if Law was a complete maniac like Kid was, he could have, like, caused a lot more damage than what he did. I think this is Law just telling us, you know, what he's capable of. And Law is a smart dude. He was aiming to the warlord position because that would help him out with Kaido later on. You know, he was kind of working the field here. So he's probably sitting there like, I need to do something to let them know who I am and why I should be a warlord. Okay, but I just have to make sure it's in that certain region there. And so he did that, and I think after that events at the Rocky Port, then he did his whole heart thing, and he was like, you know, okay, I did that at Rocky Port just to kind of show you what I'm capable of, and then here are 100 hearts that I ripped out of pirates' chests with my devil fruit power. I would like an invitation to the warlords now. Law went there, Law gave them those hearts with that intention. To kind of like as a deterrent factor, because he'd be like, if it really went down the same way as it went in the anime, where Law just strolled into Marineford, opened up a crate of hearts, what's to stop the Marines from just shooting him dead right there? The Rocky Port incident. He could be like, okay, listen up. Here's the way this is going to go down. You saw what I did at Rocky Port. You saw what I was capable of there, okay? I could flip this entire town upside down, very literally, if I wanted to right now. And I could kill a lot of civilians, because Marineford is, you know, it's citizens live there too, the Marine families. Here are 100 pirate hearts that I got as a show of good faith. A bloody show of good faith, but a show of good faith nonetheless. Go and show these to your bosses. I want to be a warlord. I'll play nice, but you really shouldn't shoot me dead right here, because that's going to start a lot of problems. That's going to start a battle. Maybe you'll win. Maybe you'll kill me. Probably. I'm outnumbered. A lot of people are going to die in the process. Is that really worth it? And think about what I could do for you. Saw what I did at Rocky Port? See what I did with all these hearts? I could be helping you out with all this shit. I'm Trafalgar D. Water Law. I mean, you don't know I'm a D, but I'm Trafalgar Law, motherfucker. You know Law, he could do something like that. You know he would be the kind of guy to do something like that. Play the field. I'm like, I'm going to become step 1, do this, Rocky Port. Step 2, heart thing. Step 3, become a warlord. Step 4, punk hazard. Step 5, thing with Caesar, you know, 4D chess. 4D chess! And then, you know, step 36, kill Kaido. Okay, that's how it goes, you know? Yeah. So I think it was something along those lines. Something that caused some mass property damage, maybe injured, killed a few citizens, but nothing too absolutely devastating to the point where they wouldn't consider him for one. And, yeah. And I think we're also going to get a flashback of this at some point, now that Koby has been part of this, and maybe a lot of other Marines were part of this too. Koby, this is probably the moment where he became famous, you know, where everyone's like, oh, there's this pink-haired guy, and he's, you know, trained by Garp, and he's becoming rather popular, and he's, you know, getting ranks, you know, higher. So let's give him the accolade, let's give him the medal, let's give him the position of captain. He's young, but I think he can handle it. That kind of thing. I'm also kind of curious on what happened with Koby, because remember at Marineford, Koby, like, directly hindered Akainu. Like, stepped in front of Akainu. Akainu was ready to kill him. I've always been curious as to what was ever, you know, made of that. Like, after Koby woke up and after Akainu recovered, can you imagine the moment where Akainu and Koby ever ran into each other, like, walking down the hallway to the bathroom or something? Can you imagine that? Like, Kobe's in the bathroom taking a leak, and he's like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, at Marineford. All of a sudden, Akainu walks in, like, oh, shit, not this guy. Like, hi there, Admiral Akainu. And then he just pisses magma all over the... He's like, oh god, it's melting. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. Like, but no. Seriously, though, you think after the whole incident at Marineford, Akainu would just be like, get that pink-haired brat, kick him out of the Marines. He hindered me, okay? I want him out. I'm the fleet admiral. Kick his ass. Get his ass court-martialed. Maybe Garp stepped in. Maybe Garp or one of the others. Like, he's kind of gaining some accolades, and he kind of helped out at that Rocky Port incident, so maybe we can't really kick him out. He's actually doing a pretty good job. You know, his greatest crime up until this point was, you know, just wanting to have the war stop. You know, having a sense of empathy. How dare he? So maybe that's how he kind of got out of hot water there, or boiling magma, however you want to put it. But, yeah, what do you guys make of the Rocky Port incident? What do you think it get involved below. You can comment on all your... This is just one perspective. There's plenty of other ones. But yeah, next chapter, man. I'm telling you, these post-arc chapters, they're great. They're great for somebody like me. Like, I mean, it would have been great if I wasn't sick earlier. I would have made, like, probably 2 or 3 other videos about this, because so much shit just gets dumped on you during these post-arc chapters that, yeah, it's nuts. All this extra stuff. I mean, Joy Boy's already made a few videos about them, like the Weevil thing. You should go watch his video on that. Yeah, because Weevil might have actually been kicked out of the Warlords for right now, so I don't know how that's gonna go. But, yeah, it's nuts. Let me know below about what you think about the Rocky Port, though. Tekking101, signing out. How does Law keep this on his head? It is way too big. This one is... Maybe he uses it as, like, a pillow at night. It's like, at night, he's like, alright, crew, good night. Click. I love my nice little plushy hat. Law sleeps like a baby at night.